If you're a fan of mystery and horror movies or shows, you should also try true crime podcasts. True crime podcasts give a detailed narration on a non-fictional crime committed and all the circumstances surrounding it. In most cases, these crimes are murders, and a good percentage of true crime podcasts give the story of serial killers. This video will show you the 7 best true crime podcasts. Before we continue, please subscribe to our YouTube channel by hitting the subscribe button below. And remember to click the notification bell to be the first to know when we upload our videos. The 7th on our list is the Crime Junkie Podcast by Ashley Flowers and Brit Prawat. If you are obsessed with the mysteries behind crimes, you should join these two. Since its release in 2017, Crime Junkie keeps advancing even to this present day. The podcast creators have dropped hints of their plans to remodel the podcast into a drama series. The podcast is released weekly, diving into mysterious stories from as far back as the 1940s to recent times. It discusses several murder cases with each episode. Moving to the 6th on the list, we have the Morbid True Crimes Podcast. If you're looking for that podcast that doesn't just throw you into suspense, but gives you answers, you've found it. The podcast began in May 2018 and has done a pretty good job catching the listeners' attention. Elena Urquhart and Ashley Kelly are the hosts of this podcast. Though Aliana is Kelly's aunt, their listeners call them sisters as they refer to each other as such. The most brilliant feature of the show is its diversity in treating cases and stories. Aside from the usual death and serial killers cases, they also explore spooky histories, strange myths, and haunted tales. At number 5, we have the hilarious My Favorite Murder podcast by Karen Kilgariff and Georgia Hardstack. Released in January 2016, the show has risen to the top 10 comedy podcast on iTunes. The fans of this show call themselves the Murderinos, which has become a famous signature among listeners. With each episode of this podcast, the ladies select a true murder story and discuss its circumstances. The murder cases in this show range from very famous ones to tales you've never heard. With their added humor, every episode of My Favorite Murder only gets more exciting. Evil Podcast is the 4th on our list of the best true crime podcast. The Black Dahlia is a posthumous name for a woman named Elizabeth Short. Elizabeth became the talk of the town when locals found her body brutally mutilated and dumped. 75 years since the gruesome Black Dahlia case, it has remained unsolved and has left many puzzled. Recently, 2 sisters Rasha Pecoraro and Yvette Gentile say they know the killer. With details to back up their facts, both women posit that their great-grandfather George Hodel killed Elizabeth Short. It began in February 2019 as an 8-part series that contains interviews with individuals connected to the Hodel family. Of all, it unveils the mysterious family history both sisters share. Coming at number 3 is the Up and Vanished podcast. Payne Lindsay hosted this 3 seasons podcast, which investigated missing person cases using old clues. If stories of sudden disappearances amaze you, this is the perfect podcast for you. This podcast has all the good stories to fill you up with tales of those who vanished without a trace. It began in August 2016 and bloomed into a more promising podcast with each successive season. Its success earned Payne another show he called Atlanta Monster. Second on the list is the Suspect podcast. The Suspect is one of the most recent podcasts making waves in the true crime genre. The podcast began in 2021 and became well recognized for its in-depth details and breathtaking suspense. Join Eric Benson as he takes you through his gripping story, beginning with that of Arpana G. Naga. The 24-year-old lady was found dead in her apartment after a Halloween party. Join him through the nook and crannies of this case and many more, examining every detail by inches. Finally, we have the Welcome to Your Fantasy podcast. This podcast brushes up an old tale from the 80s with historian Natalia Petrozila guiding you through the mystery. The plot has to do with a group of men that took a male strip club into mainstream culture. Back in the 80s, the club was known as the Chippendales. To date, you can spot out Chippendales dancers with their emblem of going topless and putting on a bow tie. However, underneath the comedy and fun of this formation lay other secrets and shady businesses. There came greed, conspiracies, murder, and suicide in no time. All these mysteries, Natalia unravels in the Welcome to Your Fantasy podcast. We hope you found this review interesting. Which of these true crime podcasts will you be trying out soon? Do well to let us know in the comments section below. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to click the subscribe button and ring the notification bell to be the first to watch new videos on this channel.